After a couple of months in Brazil, 4 months to be exact, I want to give you a couple of safety tips because I get questions all the time from people wanting to go to Brazil but they're not sure what safety measures to take, especially in Rio, because you hear so many things. So I just want to give you a couple of tips on what you can do when you decide to go to Rio. Disclaimer, I don't want to say that it's in all of Brazil. Some parts are considered more dangerous as other parts, especially in bigger cities like Rio or São Paulo. But of course, Brazil is huge, so take that into consideration. But these are global tips people usually take in consideration and do when they're not only in Rio but in any bigger city in Brazil. So let's get into it. Number one, if you're going to Rio de Janeiro, I would not advise you to stay anywhere else than the southern zone of Rio. The southern zone of Rio includes various neighborhoods like Leblon, Ipanema, Copacabana. Those are the neighborhoods where most tourists stay at, and I would advise you strongly to stay in those neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods are considered the safest in Rio, and they're mainly in the south of Rio, meaning they're close to all tourist attractions. And the south zone of Rio is called Zona Sul in Portuguese. So people always refer to those neighborhoods as Zona Sul. I've traveled many times to Brazil, so I stayed in other neighborhoods than the southern neighborhoods because I also like to feel more local, not only be where the tourists are. But as a first-time traveler to Rio, I would strongly advise you to stay in those neighborhoods. So neighborhoods I've stayed at and that are very accessible are Copacabana, Ipanema, Leblon, Santa Teresa. Botafogo is also a good one. I haven't stayed there yet, but look into those neighborhoods if you're traveling to Rio for the first time. The second thing is that as a first-time traveler, I don't recommend that you go to Rio, or for any matters Brazil, without any knowledge whatsoever of Portuguese. Portuguese is a language that's spoken in Brazil. Other than contrary belief, it's not Spanish, it's Portuguese. And English is actually not widely spoken in Brazil. Most people will not speak English. So you will actually have to make an effort to learn at least a couple of basics in Portuguese. That's not very hard. I have a complete Portuguese travel guide if you're looking to traveling to Brazil. In this guide, you have all the sentences you will need as a first-time traveler in many situations in Brazil. This cheat sheet is super practical. You can just download it on the go and have all the sentences ready to say, so you don't really have to do much. Everything is translated. I created it especially for people who are traveling to Brazil for the first time but don't have the time to learn Portuguese yet. So like I said, the most common everyday life situations as a tourist in Brazil are in this sheet. I also mentioned a lot of cultural things you might need to know when traveling to Brazil for the first time and that are actually good to know. So make sure to download the SOS Portuguese travel guide in the link in my description. Number three is a very common and very important safety measure to take, especially when you're in Rio. And actually the Cariocas, people native to Rio de Janeiro, also do that. You won't see many people walking around with golden jewelry. You see people with necklaces, bracelets, but it's for the most part not golden because it's quite common to get your necklaces or anything that really hangs like a bracelet just ripped off of your neck. And that actually happened to my mom. Me and my mom were in Copacabana in Rio. So even those neighborhoods that are considered safe, things like that happen because of course that's where the most tourists are. So if something like that would happen, it would happen usually in an area where there's a lot of tourists. We actually knew that, but that day we just, did not think about it and just went on our way, and we talked in another language. So of course we were more of a target, but if you keep that into consideration, you should be fine. So don't wear flashy gold jewelries. Usually if you wear like a ring or so, it's fine. If you wear stud earrings, it's fine too. But anything they can just basically rip off, I'd advise you not to wear. And the general dress code is basically to dress as simple as possible to mingle in with the locals. Locals usually in Rio, because it's a beach city, they're usually just like in very simple summer wear, nothing too flashy. You will see people walking around with shorts a lot, with flip-flops, with Havaiana flip-flops. So really nothing too flashy. You're not gonna see people walking around with heels or whatever. But of course, if you go out, you can do so. But on a day-to-day, I would advise you dress as simple as possible. Just kind of just mingle with the locals and don't stick out so much, especially like I said with the jewelry. And with that comes also another point that is very important that I see a lot of tourists do is flaunting around there. cameras, phones. So don't do that, please, because not only in Rio, as in any other big cities, phones are an easy target. And even if you have your phone in your bag, make sure to close the zipper to your side always, or wear the bag in front of you, not on the side. I've heard where people gotten stolen at like parties where they had the fanny pack but on the side, so it was easy to just open the zip. There's a lot of pickpocketing going on, especially at big parties, like when it's during carnival, or but this is not only in Rio. This is something that would happen in any big city in the world. So I always say, just take the safety measures you would take in your hometown too. If it's a big town, you would do the exact same things you would do in Rio too. Don't walk around flaunting your phone, your camera, any valuables that you have. Be as discreet as possible. Of course, you can take them out, you can take videos and everything, but always keep an eye open to your surroundings first. It doesn't mean that you have to be paranoid about everything you do, but just like have common sense. You're not gonna go to the beach and just leave your stuff carelessly while you go to the water. I've seen people do that and then complain why they got their stuff stolen. So things like that, it is not really with a lot of common sense. So that's what I always say, just have common sense and nothing will happen. Another tip I can give you is to always take either the metro, which is very, very safe in Rio. A lot of people are actually scared to take the metro, but the metro is one of the safest. They always have security guards on there. The metro is very safe in Rio. Or Uber. Ubers in Brazil are generally very cheap, so you can opt to take either both methods of transportation, either Ubers or metros. The bus is considered to be not that safe. The buses that are in the south zone are fine, but the buses that are going outside of those areas are considered not that safe, because a lot of robberies that happen actually on the buses. So the buses are not considered safe for that matter, even for the locals. But Ubers and metros are completely fine in Rio. Another safety tip I can give you is to not go to the beach by yourself if it's too late. A couple of years back, it was dangerous actually to go to the beach after midnight, but now it's not considered as dangerous anymore, because a lot of things that used to happen back in the days don't happen anymore. But it's still not considered that safe to go, for example, by yourself, just sit at the beach at 1 a.m. But I think those are things that you wouldn't necessarily do in your hometown too. Like, I would not do that. So I think that also counts to something you would have common sense for. I hope so, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people unfortunately just like get drunk, and then go to the beach, or like just talk to some random people at the beach, and that's not considered very safe, because you don't know what can happen. So keep that in mind too. But of course, you don't have to be paranoid. Again, like I said, you can actually go to the beach at night. I've met people who arrived in Brazil the first day and they were completely paranoid about going to the beach after 8 p.m. But no, it's completely fine. I'm always at the beach with friends. We go until like 11 midnight, but after midnight hours, as long as there are people there, and there are usually always people there around those times, until like late. But as long as there are people, it's completely fine. The thing is not to be alone at the beach, because of course you're gonna be an easy target if you're at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. at the beach walking around drunk or whatever. So those are the couple of safety tips I can give you, especially if you're going to Rio de Janeiro. And remember to download the SOS Portuguese travel cheat sheet in case you want to learn everything you need to know as a first-time traveler, cultural things, and also Portuguese sentences you will definitely need in Brazil. So make sure to download it in the link in the description, and I see you in my next video.